Okay, so for this lesson, 2.1, we'll be working on problems 1 through 35. All of them found on page 48. Okay, for the first couple here, vocabulary. Is the quotient of two integers always a rational number? And you might think yes, and you'd be right almost all of the time, except you could never divide by 0. And 0 is an integer, so there is a quotient of two integers where the answer would actually be undefined, okay? So, which is not rational. Okay, so that would be the one example, the one exception that makes this a no. Writing. Are all terminating and repeating decimals rational numbers? Yes. Okay, if you can write it as a terminating decimal or a repeating decimal, then we can write them as fractions, which are ratios, and that makes them rational. Here, it just says tell whether the number belongs to each of the following number sets. So, rational numbers, integers, and whole numbers. Well, this first one is not a whole number because it's negative, but it is an integer, and it is a rational number. Number 4, it's also a rational number. It's not an integer because it's got that fractionally decimal part. So it's just a rational number. Here, this is a whole number, an integer, and a rational number. And same for number 6, a whole number, an integer, and a rational number. Okay, so they're all rational numbers. This one, that's all it is. This one here these 3 are also integers, and these 2 are also whole numbers. Down here, tell whether the decimal is terminating or repeating. Well, here, it doesn't terminate, keeps going on and on and on, and it keeps going 4, 8, 4, 8, so it's a repeating. This is terminating because it ends. This is terminating because it ends. And this is repeating because it's got the repeating bar. Negative 5.236363636. The 2 is not repeating, just the 36 is repeating, shown by that fraction bar. I mean, not fraction bar, repeating bar. Okay, for these next problems, we're turning the rational number. We're writing these as decimals. Remember, top divided by bottom, top in the box when we're doing long division. So this would be 7 divided by 8. The 7 goes in the box. Now, I'm not going to show you a bunch of long division problems. I'm assuming it's 7th grade. You know how to do long division. Number 11, you should have gotten 0.875 when you're all done here. For number 12, you should have gotten 0.09 with the 0.9 repeating. For number 13, negative 0.7 with the 7 repeating. For number 14, negative 0.425. For 15, 1.83 with the 3 repeating. For 16, negative 2.94 with the 4 repeating. For number 17, you should have gotten negative 5.583 with just the 3 repeating. And finally, number 18, 8.681 with the 8.1 repeating. For the error analysis on this, describe and correct the error in writing the rational number as a decimal. So what did they do wrong? The bar should be over both digits to the right of the decimal point here. It should be negative 0.63 with the 6.3 repeating, not only the 3. Okay, for these problems, write the decimal as a fraction or mixed number in simplest form. So you can go back to the lesson to see how to do this if you need a reminder, but the answer for this one, and if you can read them correctly, then you will get them correct. This is negative 9/10. So negative 9/10. Positive. So number 21 is positive 45 hundredths, which simplifies to 9/20. Negative 258 thousandths, which simplifies to negative 129 over 500, which doesn't simplify more than that. For number 23, negative 312 thousandths, which simplifies to negative 39 over 125. For number 24, negative 2 and 32 hundredths, which simplifies to negative 2 and 8/25. For number 25, negative 1 and 64 hundredths, which simplifies to negative 1 and 16 over 25. For number 26, 6 and 12 thousandths, which simplifies to 6 and 3 over 250. And number 27, negative 12 and 405 thousandths, which simplifies to negative 12 and 81 over 200. Order the numbers from least to greatest. For these, you should write all of these as decimals. Write them all as decimals and then order the decimals. Once you order the decimals, then go back and put these numbers right here in order from least to greatest. When you do that, for number 28, going from least to greatest would have been negative 7/3, then negative 3/4, 0.5, 2/3, and the largest would have been 1.2. For number 29, putting these in order, remember you turn them all into decimals first, but then these are the numbers you have to put in order. You would have gotten negative 2.5, negative 1.1, negative 4/5, 0.8, and finally 9/5. For number 30, putting them in order from least to greatest, negative 8/5, negative 1.4, negative 0.9, 1/4, and then 0.6. For number 31, you should have gotten negative 9/4, negative 0.75, negative 6/10, 5/3, and then 2.1. For number 32, negative 7/2, negative 2.8, negative 5/4, 1.3, 4/3. So that one was nearly in order, just the way it was written. Number 33, negative 2.4, negative 2.25, negative 11/5, 15/10, and then 1.6. All right, on to the last two. For these last two, it says you lose 1/4, 2 dimes, and 2 nickels. Write that amount as a decimal. Well, you lost it, so it will be negative. I mean, losing money is always negative, right? But 1/4, 2 dimes, and 2 nickels. So that's 2 dimes is 20 cents, 2 nickels is another dime, so that's 30 cents plus a quarter is 55 cents. Negative 0.55. Okay, for part A. Negative 0.55. And then it says write that amount as a fraction in simplest form. So for part B, we'll put that negative out front like that. And then that 55 goes on in the numerator, and on the denominator we would put 1 with 2 zeros or 100. Obviously that has to be simplified. We can simplify by 5, turning this into negative 11 over 20. Negative 11 over 20. And then finally, the very last problem, it says a box turtle hibernates in sand at negative 1 5/8 feet. A spotted turtle hibernates at negative 1 16/25 feet. which turtle is deeper. Now, you could just find a common denominator for these, or, which 200 would work, but you could also turn them both into decimals. Then you're saying which turtle is deeper or further from the ground. So we're looking at whichever one is the larger negative number. And by more negative, I should say, not larger negative, more negative, because that means it's deeper. And when you do that, the spotted turtle at negative 1 16/25 feet would be deeper. Awesome. Well, now you can go and do the homework, which is journal page 28. Have a great night.